All right, everybody. All day and yesterday we were like, please don't rain. And now new and old friends are reestablishing acquaintances. We haven't seen each other in a while. So we'll get going before the rain does kick in. So good afternoon, everyone. Few ever get a chance to come out here. So feel honored that you're actually out here. It's an interesting place to a lot of us. And for other people, they just drive by and can't see through the trees. And as long as everything runs just fine, then everyone's happy. And so, good afternoon. And as I said, we have new acquaintances and some other ones that we've established over the years. And through COVID and everything, and maybe project by project, we haven't seen each other. So, a warm welcome for everyone. I was kidding. I said this is the first time we've had FEMA, MEMA, and LEMA all in one spot. This is a historic moment. Anyway, Laurie Ehrlich is here, and she's the FEMA Regional Administrator, served in the legislature in the Lynn, Swampscott area in Region 1, and she took the position back in, did you say January?
January.
And is eager to go, and is already, because she served in the legislature, already has that learning curve, so she knows the in and outs of this. She understands how important infrastructure is, so I'd like to welcome her to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And good afternoon, everyone. I am so thrilled to be here. I am especially thankful to the mayor for setting up a tent because we have rain. Who knew? Rain can happen here. And I just want to thank you, Mayor Mazzarella, for putting this event together, and also for your many years of service. As we were just talking about, sometimes it's that continuity of service and staying with a project, seeing it from an idea through implementation that brings success. And today, we are here to celebrate a successful project, and we're so happy to do that. We do have FEMA, MEMA, and LEMA all lined up because people love success, and successes should be celebrated. So I also would like to recognize, much to Leominster's credit, two particularly talented former colleagues of mine and wonderful elected public servants here in Leominster. First, Senator John Cronin. John and I were co-chairs of the Municipalities Committee in the legislature together, and though he was new to the legislature and thrown right into a chairmanship in the busiest, or maybe one of the two busiest committees in the legislature, he got right up to speed from day one. I mean, really just an extraordinary talent to walk in the door having never served and to be given the awesome responsibility of chairing. So it was an honor for the 2 years, that he's been chair of the committee, to be able to co-chair it with him. And it's nice to see you again, John. Also, Natalie Higgins, my dear friend and former colleague. Natalie is just one of those solid, passionate, somebody who picks a good issue and just sticks with it. We worked on many bills together, and I'm thrilled to see you, Natalie, and celebrate this great thing together today. And also, I also want to recognize MEMA's Deputy Director, Pat Carnevale, who I see often now, and really enjoy that FEMA can be there for MEMA to support the good efforts on the ground, and also ensure that projects like this, we work in tandem, and we make sure that the good efforts on the ground are being supported. And when emergency strikes, I can tell you you're in good hands, because the work that Pat and Don Brantley do, the acting director, and I'm honored to work with them. I also want to recognize there's so many good local people here who have done truly the hard work of making this happen. The Leominster City business manager Roger Brooks, I think we're going to hear from, and he's over there. And I just want to just acknowledge that that is where the hard work really happens. That's where the ideas are born, and that's where the applications are filled out and all the follow-up, and that's where everything occurs. So thank you for your hard work. Okay, so important events like this are just such a gratifying part of my job. And this is a new job for me, but this was also my favorite part of my old job. So I served 14 years in the legislature. My district was Marblehead, Swampscott, and Lynn. And my work in Lynn in particular, we have water and sewer issues and old pipes and infrastructure issues, which are never the sexiest things to work on, but they're often the most important, and they can have the greatest impact on people's lives. So I am really glad to call attention to this project. The resilience work being done here along the Nashua River is part of local, state, tribal, and federal efforts to work together at addressing climate change and reducing risk in our communities. For a second year, the Biden-Harris administration has made available a historic amount of funding of more than $3 billion, billion dollars for the fiscal year 2022. And the name of that, one of the programs is BRIC, which stands for Building Infrastructure and Communities. And we also have flood mitigation assistance grant programs. These unprecedented funding amounts align with FEMA's strategy to address climate change and resilience and create a more equitable and resilient nation. FEMA continues to evolve mitigation grants to be more equitable, reduce complexity, and we hear that quite often, and we're working at that, and address climate resilience. FEMA also remains focused on reducing barriers to accessing funding to those who need it the most, and build capacity and capability to deliver mitigation grant programs. FEMA anticipates this funding will help minimize the gap of continued oversubscription to these grant programs and address growing mitigation needs nationwide. FEMA also announced the expansion of BRIC non-financial direct technical assistance. Now, what I've learned as I jump from state to federal is that there are a lot of acronyms in federal government. So I try not to speak in acronyms. So I'm going to give you the full long titles just so you know what I'm talking about. So these are designed to help communities design transformational projects that address multiple hazards and accelerate community resilience. This will address the high demand we have experienced in communities requesting help with assisting with accessing funding, especially disadvantaged communities trying to build resilience and reduce disaster suffering. We don't want to see communities that need it the most unable to access this funding because they don't have the resources to put towards it. As a former Commonwealth of Massachusetts state representative, it gives me great pleasure to now lead the Federal Emergency Management Agency in New England forward as we all work to improve the quality of life in our cities and towns. I look forward to building on this relationship we are establishing, and thank you for your partnership and great work. Enjoy the day, everyone. This is a victory lap for all of us. So, thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well said. Thank you. Jeff Bean, who used to be the mayor in Fitchburg, became the regional FEMA director at one time. And so it was when they first established the position of Homeland Security. So we were in New Orleans for the U.S. Conference of Mayors in June. And so I don't know why, but President Clinton was there, and then the vice president, almost the whole cabinet was in New Orleans to speak. Well, for some reason, they lined up the first head of Homeland Security to speak on a Sunday morning at 8 o'clock in New Orleans. Only Jeff Bean could pull this off. Only Jeff Bean. I saw Jeff, and I forget what time it was. It was late. And I thought, this is New Orleans. However, you're going to get anybody. I mean, it's going to be this big auditorium. There's going to be nobody in it. And I walked in at 5 of, like everybody else. And I don't think too many people had slept that night. And the place is full. And I'm still amazed by it all. And I said to the director after, I said, let me tell you, you better go thank that bean guy, because nobody else could have filled this place up but him. And you're right, it's not a very glamorous part of the business, infrastructure. And of no slight to the former administrations in the past, but it was very difficult to get projects funded. It was. They weren't very glamorous. And in economic times, when you're talking to residents about raising rates, because that's how you fix these problems, politically, they can come back on you, no pun intended. And the reality of it all is, and I'll talk a little bit in a minute about kind of how we approached it and what got done, but and Roger Brooks is certainly a huge part of, and he'll be one of the speakers later, one of the huge parts of kind of putting the master plan and putting the people together and building the relationships. Because I think for a while we're a little bit punch drunk about even talking about doing projects if you can't get the funding. And the partnerships that Roger was able to cultivate, which gave us the oomph to do projects. It's not blacktop, it's not schools, but they're very important. And there's a river right here, the Monusnock goes into the Nashua, which makes its way, and where it goes to the ocean. And we have a responsibility beyond all. And these are modern times, and you still hear about some of these situations where people are still discharging into, raw sewage into rivers and oceans, and you think to yourself, this isn't 1960. And anyway, next is Pat Carnevale. He's a regular here in Leominster here in terms of emergency management. He represents MEMA, Massachusetts Emergency Management. Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mayor, Administrator, Senator, Rep. Thank you very much. On behalf of Secretary Reedy and Director Brantley, I want to thank you for allowing us to be part of this great event today. A couple of things I'll disagree with the Mayor. I'm hoping for rain, Mayor. We've been fighting fires in the east all weekend. It's been a nightmare. And you feel, Saugus, Lynn, Marlboro, I can go on with Rockport. It's been tough. So yes, I want to hold out for the event, but if we can get rain, I'll take it any time at this point. And a little bit before I go into my prepared remarks, the Mayor's correct. So I started as a regional manager for Worcester West, and I've been doing it for over 20 years. And I've worked with the Mayor in regards to 2010, 2011, 2008. And I just got to meet Art today, the Emergency Management Director. And for those that don't know, I was really good friends with Jim LeBlanc, who was a previous EMD for the community, and Jim was amazing individual for those that knew him. Jim passed away about 8 months ago, so when I first met Art, I said, we had never met each other, and I said, Art, you got big shoes to fill, and he kind of looked at me and was like, oh boy, what's this, where's this coming from? And again, I'm used to working in the field, and I said, Jim LeBlanc, and I didn't have to say any more than that, and he knew both what he and Charlie Coggins had done. I knew that's how far back I go. Charlie Coggins, and I was joking with the Mayor when Charlie asked us to tour the facility that they work out of, and I'll clean it up because there's a lot of people here, but Charlie toured us through the facility, and it was a dump. That's nice words. And a colleague of mine, Bruce Augusty, and I walked outside, and Charlie's still praising this facility, and it was an old chip factory, the Mayor will know. And if you look at that facility now, it is state of the art. It is so well respected throughout the Commonwealth. We use it. A colleague of mine, Alan Phillips, who works in the region, uses the office space, uses the training space. And why I'm kind of talking about some of this, how it ties into this, it's all about partnerships. The Mayor said, we have FEMA, MEMA, LEMA here, everybody together. That's how these projects work. And I'll get into the prepared remarks, so I kind of stay on task because I tend to get off task. But I think those are important things. They truly are. And any of my colleagues that have worked in the field will know that it's all about the relationships. And we're fortunate. The Senator Rep and I were joking. I know he's the longest sitting mayor in the Commonwealth. We're not sure if he might be in the whole country at this point, but we're not sure. But
Babysitting it down.
But no, seriously, that's where it starts. It starts on the local level, and it's the relationships after that. But just to get into this project, it's a real success story, and with that comes an incredible amount of work. Incredible amount of work, again, by all three entities and all the people that are involved in it. Getting a successful hazard mitigation grant across the line is complicated and cumbersome. And to get to that project to the end takes a lot of work. The city of Leominster and cities and towns like it throughout Massachusetts are applauded for the long-term planning and the vision to take a look at this. And that's what the foresight and commitment and made this happen, made this project happen. For MEMA, these projects serve as a model for communities with eroding inland riverbanks, which could also benefit from incorporation of green components into the restoration. It doesn't always have to be brick and mortar, and they've been very, very insightful in how they want to move this project. The success of this project will educate public officials that the shoreline and critical infrastructure can be protected without construction, as I said, or hard engineering. So again, thank you. Thank you to everybody involved, the Leominster team, our FEMA team, administrators, correct. We are very fortunate that the administrator is part of our team. At any time, Director Brantley or I can call either her or Administrator Ford, and you don't get a voicemail, you get an answer. And so we thank you for that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't include Dave Woodbury. Dave is a colleague of mine from headquarters out of the mitigation unit. Dave has worked on this project from inception to the end. And it's without people like Dave and Alan, as I mentioned earlier, these projects don't take place. Yeah, I get to stand up here and do all the praise and glory, but really I want to thank everybody from the city of Leominster, from FEMA, and to our colleagues. Thank you very much for making this project successful.
And just in case, I don't know what direction people came in today, but if you're coming off of Route 2 and you're going west, all you have to do is look to the right. It's a lot of vegetation right now, but in the fall you can clearly see it. And so how I used to come to work in the morning, and once I started to notice and called Pat LaPointe, the DPW director at the time, and said, Pat, there are trees that are falling, literally, entire trees that are falling into the river. And which started the whole process of eventually, if these storms continue the way they were, then it was going to keep eroding to the point where it's going to make its way into this facility and also the roadway, which is Interstate 190, is we call it the connector of the corridor. So that's the project. So you really can't. Can you see it from here, Roger? You really can't. It's all where the sign is, the Welcome to Leominster sign. And if you look coming off, look to the right, you'll see how much erosion there is. It's, I don't know how many feet out there, Mark. It's significant, and the storms that we have are cutting further and further into that area, which is making its way into the facility here. Next, no introduction needed. Senator John Cronin, been supportive of us no matter what it is that we've done. Has been right there to support us. So thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome.
Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to start by just thanking everybody in attendance today, and it starts with the FEMA Regional Administrator, Laurie Ehrlich. She was a great friend to me in the legislature, and getting to work with her very closely on the Municipalities Committee was really no surprise that the President of the United States tapped her to fill this position. So we've got a friend, and she was joking, but she came up to myself and Representative Higgins, and she said, I picked you guys because I wanted to come see you. So we hope we see you all the time. You are welcome anytime, and we appreciate the partnership of FEMA and MEMA, Mr. Deputy Director. So one thing that strikes me is just how hard it is to get money to flow to a project that is uncontroversial and really necessary. There was a disaster declaration in 2018, and here we are in 2022 with the funds getting to the community that needs us. And an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and it's such a critical and essential service what we're doing here today to protect our water system, protect our wastewater system here in Leominster. And it just doesn't happen without local, state, and federal partners working together. This is the second time in a couple of weeks that we've all been together, right? We were at the rail trail a couple of weeks ago. And again, federal money, state partners, local advocacy and champions. But I just want to give a special thank you today to not just you, Mayor, but your staff. You've got a team that is second to none. And we're here in Leominster for the second time in as many weeks because nobody really does it just like Leominster. And that's you, Mr. Brooks. That's everybody on the city staff who's really delivered in a way that's not sexy, that a lot of people will never know about, but is so critical to our downtown here, and Leominster being the anchor of our regional economy. And I want to give a special thank you to Wendy Weeks, who I think wrote the grant, submitted it. I don't think there's an unsung, yeah. Wendy? If there was a Mount Rushmore of unsung heroes in Leominster, you'd be on it. Maybe not a bad idea. But I'm so grateful to everybody who made today possible, and it's great to see these funds being used how they were intended to. So thank you.
Thank you. If anybody watches the stock market now, they call it very volatile. And in our world today, if you watch politics, it can often be volatile, right? But the reality here is, in Leominster, we have a little bit of a different story, because regardless of your politics or your beliefs, we have an outstanding city council that's been, and you can't get anything done if you're battling between council and mayors and department heads. And just everyone suffers, nothing gets done. And we have a couple of the city councils that are here today. Veteran Frank Ardinger was with us today, and Bill Brady, both with us. Any other city councils that are here that might be hiding from us, but all are just, I'm blessed. I'm the luckiest. I go to the mayor's meeting, I'm like, I am the luckiest. And we get a lot done. And department heads. And, our department heads, and I want to just say this because you're all part of government, is everybody works together. It might be this issue, and it might have nothing to do with the library, but the library director is the first to jump in, and whoever it is that has to jump in to see us succeed and to accomplish things. And that's like the biggest dream of any elected official, is to have a team like that. And so when you compound that with the state and federal government, it's a big win. And again, somebody who supports us in every single endeavor, Representative Natalie Higgins. Natalie? Thank you. It almost looks like a money bag that you brought us.
I know. It holds all my stuff. So thank you all for being here. When our friends from the federal and state level came in, they were surprised to see how many people show up in Leominster, and I said, that's how we do things. And I'm really, really grateful for everyone who played a part in getting this done. The cross collaboration from the local level to the state level to the federal level is why Leominster is such a special place. And I'm really incredibly grateful to be able to celebrate in this with you all today and get to work on your next project, Mr. Mayor. Now we took this one off the list. But really, seriously, to see so many different departments represented today to celebrate in this, this is really special, and I'm grateful to be with you all today.
Thank you very much. And then I started talking a little bit about Roger. Roger and Wendy are the backbone of so much, and they don't like us to talk too much about them. But when I first elected, one of the first people I sat down with was Roger. And if you don't know Roger, he doesn't write anything on paper. Everything's in his brain. It's like computer chips in his brain. He can tell you the size of a water line in North Brookfield, in West Springfield, Longmeadow, and Worcester, and tell you the year that the hydrant got installed. And so we first sat down with Roger. There was this long list. And of course, it hits you. Everybody that's ever been elected to any office. Once you get elected, you're like, wow, I have to do this job now. Right? All those things I said I gotta like do this stuff. People counting on me. And it hits you. And Roger sat down, and Ray Racine had already been here for a lot of years, and they had proposed project after project. But again, it was a different environment financially, socioeconomically. It was difficult to get projects funded because, the voter was volatile. They didn't want to see increases anywhere. There were a lot of factory workers, and they had good reason for it. And so Roger came in and said, well, we have this consent order and this consent order, and we have this problem at this water plant, and we have leaking dams, and the list just went on and on and on and on. But with that, Roger had a plan for every single one. And then what happened after that really was spectacular, because Roger went on and cultivated these relationships with DEP and FEMA and MEMA and all of these other agencies. And it helped us. It worked with our legislators and developed these really solid projects. We were the first, at the time it wasn't very fashionable, but we were the first to privatize our water and sewer departments. We had to. We were right. We were in no position to make a 40-year comeback after lack of maintenance. And so we spent a lot of time down at the Inspector General's office making sure we got this right because other communities would follow, and they wanted to get it right. And we got it right, and we took on partners here that run the facility. And I don't know, is Bob Shalafo here?
Yeah.
Was here? Where's Bob? Well, anyway, Bob.
We went back there.
Bob was the director here, and again, you talk about the team effort. And again, you know, we had raw sewage heading into some of these rivers and streams and people's yards. I mean, it just wasn't pretty, and dams that were failing, and the treatment. I mean, the list just went on and on and on. And they really, I give the credit to Roger Brooks that came in and said, here are the problems, here are the solutions, and here's what we need to do. And then Wendy came along and helped write the grants, and it was really a team effort. And then they came to me with this thing called I&I removal. Now, if your kids can't sleep at night, explain to them about I&I removal, right? Water, that's pretty clean, that goes into the drain, that ends up going into the sewer because it's not separated. And I thought, Roger, this is pretty boring. Like, I don't know, doesn't it all end up somewhere? And he said, yeah, it ends up down here, but the problem is the system can't handle it. Let's separate that stormwater. Let's take it out of the system, separate it, and then you process the sewage, and you save money, and it's better for the environment because when you have a big storm, the system can't take it, right, Ray? I mean, the system can't handle all the stormwater and everything. So it's not a very interesting story. It's not like, you know, the little engine that could, right? But the reality is, it affected economic development because we're limited as to who could put sewage into the system. We had backups in neighborhoods. We had sump pumps that went into it. Was just, and here we are, almost 30 years later. Our I&I is done. We've done our dams, Ray. Come on, give me a list, Ray. We got one dam left. We replaced our bridges. We've done our water department continues to replace water lines. One of the few in the state of New England, and probably in the country. We've done all of our work in the upgrades in all of our treatment plants. It's remarkable. And Roger, the rates are still some of the lowest moderate rates in the area. So it just shows if everybody works together. Greg Chapdelain's been our purchasing agent, and these are complex projects. Trust me. And again, they're not very glamorous, but I could tell you what's really not glamorous is discharging and having backups into people's homes and having those situations. That is the worst possible scenario. And can things happen still? Yes. Have we had those situations come upon us once in a while? But we really haven't had the problem. And that's a tribute to everyone here working together to get these projects done. So here he is, the computer chip in his brain, the guy that doesn't write anything down, but it's all there. He's a valuable resource to us. What's the combination at Merchants Bank, Roger? Roger used to be a banker and he worked at Merchants. And I know he still remembers the combination, but it's no longer Merchants Bank. Anyway, Roger Brooks, business manager at the DPW.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you all for coming. I can't tell you how important this project is to us. Can't say it. Mayor's comments very flattering. Kind of like when you say it takes a village to raise a child. It's these projects start with everybody that I interacted with down at DPW, with Wendy, and most of all the mayor and the city council, because somebody's got to pay the bill and somebody's got to take the heat. When we sit there and say we got to go into your house and separate a sump pump in your basement because it's an illegal connection, the homeowner doesn't want to hear it, but it's got to be done. So, interesting story was, I was here 3 weeks, and we get a call from DEP. We get a problem over on Bascom Street.
I was trying to forget that.
So we had a manhole that had been marginalized, and Ray and I sat there with the mayor figuring out what we're going to do, because the director was on vacation. Pat had a great sense of timing. You know, something really major had come up, and he'd be in Maine. So from that point on, we were on a first name basis with DEP. And I have to say that without DEP's assistance, both in the regional office and in the state offices on Winter Street, it started with Andrew Gottlieb back in the late 90s. Steve McGurty, who was a wonderful partner who's still doing budgets for DEP. and Marty Suberg, who was the director out here for a while, and Marty's the commissioner now, but Marty's been a wonderful director and supporter, and somebody that we've had a great relationship with. So going back to this particular project, I don't want to get into too much about the history of water and sewer here in Leominster. This particular project started back around 2010. We were doing testing on the river. It was a voluntary thing. National River Watershed does part of it, both in the Groton Pepperell area. They do some in Fitchburg, where you test the water quality for different characteristics. And we were doing it on a voluntary basis here ourselves. And the person doing the testing actually came upon the embankment here starting to be compromised. And as the mayor said, there were a couple of trees that eventually fell in, and then as time wears on, we lose 30 to 40 feet of the riverbank. And now the concern we have is we've got two 36-inch sewer lines, one coming in from South Leominster and one coming in from North Leominster, and they both run along the edge of the river. And to say that if those failed, or if the embankment let go and caused a problem, the environmental impact would be second to none. It would be almost as bad, not quite as bad as Katrina, but you'd have a issue here all the way down, probably to Oxbow, or even maybe to the Merrimack River. It would be that impactful, because you're looking at 2.5–3 million gallons a day in wastewater just in dry times. So we started working on that, and as the mayor said, Wendy and I have had a great relationship working on grants, whether it's a MassWorks grant, a CDAG grant, or this particular FEMA grant. And we were able to put together a proposal, and in between I retired, so my replacement, Jake Fleming, is the one that's going to wind up doing all the dirty work on the paperwork. But I can't say enough good things about Jake. Jake's going to be a great replacement.
He's Roger Brooks that puts things on paper.
He enters them on a computer. He can find them in 5 minutes. But it's the type of project, when everybody was talking about infrastructure, you have no idea how bad infrastructure is statewide. I mean, we're one of the oldest states in the union. We got a lot of our infrastructure installed early. It's old. Some of it was, the technology wasn't good. We got clay, now we got plastic, we've got high density polyethylene. So you've got different technologies that you can use to repair these different not really good products. So as we move forward with this project, but just again, like to thank the mayor, the city council. Somebody's got to step up and pay the bill when we ask you for money, and they've been great about it. And just one last thank you. I mean, you have no idea how important this is, and it's going to be a great project. Thank you very much.
All right, Raj?
Yeah.
Played football at Cushing. The man bounces. All right, so if it didn't appear to be a big deal, it really is to us. And we have no consent orders, right? Are we all set? We have none. We have one, little one. All right, we'll get that fixed. And but listen, there were lists, and this is a big deal to us, and it's a big deal that you all came out today, because we want to thank you all for whatever part. It is a team effort, and we get so much more done this way. As I said, politically, to have a city council that's behind you all the time and understands it, and if they don't, makes a point of understanding it, and they have to go back to the voters and say, we might have to adjust the water bills a little bit. We've done it over time, a little bit. But to those people that pay the bills, thank you for supporting us. You have a much better system. It's one of the best systems in the state of New England, and you have a great team behind you. And trust me, I have to listen to my 93-year-old mother. And when the bill comes in, and it's the tax bill or the water bill, I got some splaining to do, okay? And we all should, right? We have a responsibility to make sure we do our projects, and we keep them affordable, and they're good projects, and they have a net end result, and they do here in the city. So everybody here today, thank you for coming out, and Mother Nature spared us the rain, And a little muggy today, but that's okay. So we do have a beautiful river. We're fortunate. We have Newsmark Brook. We've got grants for that and a walkway. We're really fortunate. And you'd be surprised how much economic development happens as a result of water and sewer. And if you reach that point where you can't let people tie into your system, that means you can't let people build or expand. And at one time we had a gas shortage, couldn't let anybody tie in. We had a water, in some areas of town we couldn't serve with water, and it's devastating. And what was safe yield, Roger, 30, 40 years ago? How many gallons of water, Ray? Or right, but what were you using in the day when they had all the companies in town?
Back in the 60s, we were using 12 to 13 million.
So 12 or 13 million gallons a day from factories, from usage, and we're down to what now? A couple million gallons a day? 4 million gallons a day. That's through conservation and people replacing toilets and being more efficient. But that gives us the capacity to be able to expand. And who wants to waste water, right? Who wants to waste a valuable resource that we have?
We had 3 businesses use 1 million gallons a day each.
Yeah, 3 businesses that use 1 million gallons of water. But a lot of companies started to recycle their water, watch how they use their cooling system. And then, again, at the end of the day, now we have extra capacity. Right now we're helping on water with the town of Lunenburg, and we can help others with it. And it's really made a difference. So I can't thank you all enough. This is exciting for us. We're going to be able to do this project, and we have a number of other ones, Wendy, right? Projects that are pending. Downtown, we have another FEMA grant going, a feasibility study, working with the state. So thank you all. Enjoy the day. And if I didn't, let's see. Woodard and Curran helped us develop the project, secure the grants. Dee Winterburn is here today. Is Dee here? There you are back there. From Woodard and Curran, thank you. Public Works Director Ray Racine, Assistant Director Mark Pemerini, former and current business managers Roger Brooks and now Jake Fleming, DPW Engineer John Roseberry. Where's John? I saw him here, he's in the back. Grant writer again, Wendy Weeks. GZA Environmental is currently completing the design. And is Rosalie Starvish, Adrian Dunk, and Rex Gamble here representing today. So what do you think? Pretty cool to be involved in this, huh? Well, you heard, if this doesn't get fixed and something happens, you heard what Roger said, right? I mean, could be devastating. So you're a part of something really big and exciting. Also want to thank Dennis Pinkham of FEMA Regional 1 and Tom Lyons of MEMA for helping us plan this event today. David Woodbury, Grants Coordinator for MEMA, Alan Phillips from MEMA, and all those. I guess we had to have a tent company come down today and put this up because it was the only day of the year that it rained. All storms hit everywhere else but here for the last 3 months. And then yesterday we finally get a little bit rain. So did I cover that, Wendy? Does anybody else? The total project cost is about $900,000, close to $1 million. FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant, $674,000. The city share is $224,000. A real team effort, and its project is currently under design. Thank you all. Thank you to LTV for covering this today. Local newspaper. Which newspaper are you representing, sir?
The Sentinel.
The Sentinel and Enterprise. So thank you. Many articles over time represented. All right. Thank you, everybody.